There are moments on Love and Hip Hop that fans will never forget, and this one may well top them all. Rumors have circulated for days of a dramatic altercation during a private dinner scene. However, whispers from within the set are painting an even crazier image. According to many behind-the-scenes sources, things became so out of control that Ciara allegedly threw an entire drink directly at Mendeecees. And the cause is a confession from Erica Mena, which apparently stopped the entire table cold. They say it began as a simple conversation. Producers enjoy framing it as simply catching up. But underlying the laughter lurked a tempest about to explode. Erica's voice is supposedly cut. Through the hubbub came an accusation regarding Mendeecees that had even the crew frozen in place. Within seconds, the environment had transformed. Ciara's gaze were fixed on Mendeecees. Her tone, her sentences were sharp and clipped. Others allege he attempted to defend himself. Others claim he smirked. That's when the glass lifted. The ice hit, causing chaos. Followed. The internet is currently humming. The cast is tight-lipped, and everyone is asking the same question. What did Erica do say that pushed Ciara to her breaking point? The tension had been building for weeks, but no one on the outside could identify exactly when the shift occurred. The cast dinners were typically unpredictable, but this one had a special weight to it. Before anyone sat down, the producers had set the table with soothing lighting and strategically placed cameras. I expected the normal combination of laughter and light shade, but the energy was different. Ciara strolled in wearing a fitted cream dress, her hair pulled back tight, gaze scanning the table as she was taking the temperature of every single individual already present. Mendeecees sat 2 seats across, sitting back in his chair, swiping through his phone as if he didn't care who was watching. And across from him, Erica sat with an enigmatic look, one that could change into a smile or a storm at any moment. The evening started quietly enough. Small chat passes between plates and glasses. Kirk was recounting a long narrative about a business venture gone wrong. Rashida nodded, occasionally cutting in to discourage him from going too far. But anyone paying close attention could notice the side glances, the tension creeping under the table. Erica kept staring down, stirring her wine. Ciara's gaze continued to stray toward Mendeecees. The air thickened for a moment. Erica leaned forward, resting her elbows on the table. Her voice was just loud enough for everyone to hear. She did not raise it, but the weight of her words was clear. "I've been holding something in," she began, eyes locked on her glass. "It's been eating at me." You could almost hear the collective pause. The air shifted as the forks froze in mid-bite. Kirk looked up, curious. Rashida's brow furrowed slightly, indicating trouble. Mendeecees gave her a small smirk, as if he had heard this opening before and was unimpressed. Ciara, on the other hand, straightened in her chair, recognizing the direction of the conversation. Erica took a slow breath before proceeding. "Mendeecees mentioned something to me, backstage, something that crossed the line." The reaction was quick. Yandy's lips tightened, squeezing into a thin line. Kirk shifted uncomfortably. Rashida gave Mendeecees a short look, silently encouraging him to say anything. But he did not. Instead, he leaned back. Erica's arms were folded, seemingly challenging her to continue. The silence continued until Ciara interrupted it. What exactly was he saying? Eyes met hers and held them for a beat, before responding. "He made a comment on what I was wearing and my figure. It was not a compliment. It was insulting." There was no loud gasp or overthought reaction, simply an instant ripple of energy across the table. Kirk cleared his throat, murmuring something beneath his breath that no one heard. Rashida placed down her fork, apparently waiting to see how things would turn out. Yandy's expression was unclear, but her palm was securely wrapped around her napkin. Mendeecees finally spoke, and his tone calm but edged. "That is not how things went." Erica uttered a quick laugh, the kind that lacks comedy. "Of course you would say that." Ciara's voice became sharper. "So, are you claiming she is lying?" Mendeecees did not glance at her. "I'm saying she's twisting it." The comments were more powerful than they should have been, thanks in part to the way he delivered them. Dismissive and almost bored. Erica's visage tightened, and her posture straightened as if she were preparing for a fight. The tables appeared to shrink around them, and the air between them charged. Ciara's gaze went from Erica to Mendeecees, and her mouth tightened. She had always been open about sticking up when she thought someone was mistreated, and this was no exception. "You Think it's okay to just say whatever you want to people, huh? She asked, raising her voice slightly. Mendeecees turned to her, his gaze unwavering. You were not there. I don't need to be present to notice when someone crosses the line. Go back. The discourse started to divide. Kirk tries to change the emphasis. Rashida Yandy shook her head, refusing to engage while saying under her breath that things was about to go left. However, the bond between Sierra and Mendeecees grew stronger. Every remark and gaze seemed like another spark added to an already ignited fuse. Erica sat back now, allowing Sierra to carry the fire, her own eyes fixed on Mendeecees as if silently daring him to keep pushing. So, let me get this straight, Sierra replied, leaning forward. She says, you say something, you're out of pocket, and your first move is to act like she's making it up. Mendeecees said calmly. People in this category frequently express themselves. Now that it's me, it's a scandal. The word scandal seemed to hang in the air, raising the temperature even higher. Sierra's hands tightened around her glass, with condensation dripping between her fingers. She wasn't shouting yet, but her voice had enough edge that the crew on the sidelines shuffled uncomfortably. Erica's smirk reappeared, this time harsher, almost content that the conversation had ended precisely where she wanted it. RASHEDA leaned in closer. Kirk, whispering something, made him look at the beverages on the table. Kirk understood Sierra's expression was more than just fury. It was just before she made a move, couldn't take it back. Mendeecees, either uninformed or unconcerned, leaned forward, reducing the distance between himself and Sierra. Do you want to believe her? That's your choice, he responded gently. But I owe neither of you an explanation. There was a beat of silence that seems to last longer than it should. Sierra's gaze narrowed as her lips pressed together. Erica's eyes moved between them, as if she were watching a match poised to ignite. Kirk shifted again, anticipating what was coming. Rashida's hand stroked Sierra's arm, a silent warning that was entirely ignored. Mendeecees grabbed for his drink, and Sierra shifted. Her chair skidded against the floor, and her grasp on her glass tightened until her knuckles turned white. She didn't raise her voice or offer a statement. Instead, she lifted the glass, eyes fixed on him, and slid the full drink over the table toward his chest in one fluid stroke. Ice clinked against the wood, pouring liquid across his shirt and dripping down to the floor. The shock was immediate, with gasps, cries, and chairs scraping together. Mendeecees hesitated for a half second before moving away from the table, his expression unreadable. The room was suddenly in turmoil. Crew members stepped forward, palms raised in a mixture of alarm and hesitancy. Erica, but it was too late to calm down. The moment had gained momentum, and no one appeared willing to slow it. Sierra moved around the table, closing the gap between her and Mendeecees. She wasn't yelling, but the anger in her voice couldn't be ignored. You believe that just because you've been here lengthy time, you can say whatever you want? Not with me, nor with Erica, nor with anyone. Mendeecees leaned forward again with elbows rests on the table. And you believe you can decide what happened when you weren't even present? I believe her, Sierra responded promptly. Her fast response seemed to catch him off guard, if only for a second. He blinked and then looked aside. A little smirk formed at the corner of his mouth. Figures. Erica crossed her arms and shifted her body slightly towards Sierra, as if to demonstrate solidarity. You're smirking now, but you were doing it before you said anything. You laughed, as if it were a joke, and I should have just smiled and accepted it. Mindy's voice became lower and more serious. You left out the bit when you mentioned me first. That landed like another crack. There's thunder in the room. A few folks exchanged glances, unsure what he meant. Erica's brow wrinkled and her voice rose for the first time. Do not twist this. That's not how I heard it, he responded flatly. Sierra gave a disgruntled sigh and turned halfway toward the remainder of the table. This is precisely why people don't speak up when someone crosses the line, since there is always someone waiting to turn it back on them. Kirk tapped it. Tables softly, as if attempting to divert without walking into the fire. Look, this is going in circles. Perhaps we should all accept that he did not finish. Erica leaned forward. Her voice he cut clean through his sentence. I will not sit here and pretend that nothing occurred. I am not backing down. Mendeecees moved his chair back gently, scratching its legs against the floor. You don't need to back down. Simply quit behaving like your version is the only one that matters. Sierra's jaw tightened as he uttered it. So we are all supposed to believe you? Is that it? He met her gaze without blinking. Believe whatever gets you to sleep at night. That was the moment the remainder of the table appeared to shift collectively. It wasn't just the word zit. It was his dismissive tone. He seemed to fold the entire talk, become something small enough to brush off. Erica appeared to be about to say something more, but instead she leaned back with her lips pushed together. In a thin line, Sierra remained upright, but her hands had slid to her hips now. Her body language was loud, even without words. LHHATL eventually spoke, this time more firmly. This is exactly the type of crap that appears all over the blogs. If you keep it up. Her warning was not incorrect. Somewhere in the back, crew members were already being instructed to pull specific camera positions just in case. And rumors circulated that someone had recorded the entire affair on their phone. Before the producers realized, the prospect of this spilling outside the set was no longer a possibility. It was nearly guaranteed. Still, no one got up to depart save Yandy, who had vanished minutes before. The remainder remained fixed in their positions, observing this. Slow, tight back and forth, as if it were a game no one wanted to play, but no one could avoid either. Mendeecees was more composed now, his voice almost measured. If you believe tossing a drink at me makes you a hero, go ahead. However, it reveals more about you outperform me. Sierra did not flinch. Nah, it reveals everything about you. Kirk murmured something else under his Rashida, too, unable to catch her breath this time. The producers exchanged looks, silently deciding whether to intervene or let the scene play itself out. The judgment appeared to lean toward letting it operate because the cameras and microphone remained operational. Erica leaned closer once more, her voice lower but sharper. I don't need anyone to fight my fights, but it's telling when someone else recognizes them for what they are. Mendeecees' gaze shifted between her and Sierra, then back down. Come to the table. He took a slow sip from a fresh glass of water, as someone had mentioned in front of him. Do you think you have the full picture? He said. But you don't. Those words sat there, not as an olive branch or an apology, but as a declaration with its own weight. Sierra shook her head, letting out a weak, humorless laugh. Erica did not answer this time, but the way she looked at him suggested she was far from finished. The table felt as if it were holding its breath. Every clink of silverware or changing chair makes a greater sound than it should. The crew had they ceased trying to hide their movements. There was no point. Every camera was focused solely on Mendeecees, Sierra, and Erica, as if the rest of the room didn't exist. The rest of the cast remained poised between curiosity and discomfort. They weren't sure if they were observing a chat or the start of something that may wreck everything. Do you believe anyone here needs to create drama for a headline? You just had a drink thrown at you because you couldn't keep it respectful. That is not made up. Mendeecees did not respond to her. Instead, he directed his concentration return to Erica. If you were unhappy with what I said, you could have pulled me aside, but you wanted an audience. There was an audience when you stated it. Erica fired back. So, you have one while I react. The tiny clapback created a few individuals chuckle silently, but no one dares to laugh out loud. Kirk touched his phone as if he had just received a message, but it was clear he was simply avoiding eye contact with anyone. Spice poured herself another drink. She shakes her head. Sierra, still leaning forward, softened her tone somewhat. Do you know what the problem is? You don't even realize what's wrong with what you stated. What did you say? Mendeecees stared at her for a long time. And you're so certain you're correct that nothing I say matters. Okay, skeptic because I was there, Erica remarked, jumping in. And I understand what I heard. K. The silence that followed was not calm. It was weighty, charged. The team was still collecting every word, every glance. Someone whispered that the tape from tonight had already been flagged for special examination. Mendeecees eventually pushed his glass aside. The bloggers would devour it, the fans would dispute for days, and none of this seemed to slow anyone at the table. The sound of the chair legs scraping across the floor broke through the tension. Should I apologize for something I don't believe was wrong? That is not going to happen, he stated evenly. Erica, his jaw tensed, but he did not respond. Instead, he stepped away from the table. Sierra reclined back in her chair, her fingers lightly tapping against her. Erica sat forward, her eyes tracking him until he vanished from sight, attention still clinging to the air as if it had nowhere else to go. Murmurs filled the space like low thunder, and every side chat was laden with the aftermath of what had just happened. Many stood with the producer in the far corner, his hands gesticulating slowly as if he were presenting his argument. The rest of the table sat in a strange limbo, half pretending to be normal and half waiting to see if he'd return. Erica's chair was now turned towards Sierra, and the two of them were engaged in a quieter but equally passionate conversation. LHHATL moved in slightly, trying to listen without making it obvious. "I swear, I wasn't going to bring anything up," Erica was whispering under her breath, but the way he's been carrying himself recently, nah, it needed to be stated. Sierra nodded with her gaze. She narrowed her eyes as she looked around the corner. "And the way he attempted to downplay it, that is precisely why I did what I did." Sitting 2 seats away, he gave a tiny giggle and shook his head. "Are you sure you didn't just make this 10 times bigger?" Sierra focused her gaze on him. Her voice clipped. "Sometimes things need to be bigger in order for people to pay attention." The sound of footsteps drew the focus back. Mendeecees was walking towards his expression was unreadable when he sat at the table again. The producer remained behind, chatting via a headset. He didn't sit right away, just stood at the head of the table, looking from Erica to Sierra and back again. "So, here's what's going to happen," he said, his voice firm but tinged with tension. "I won't keep going back and forth with y'all regarding what was said. You have your story, and I have mine, but I will not be disrespected either." Erica lifted her brow. "And you believe you were not disrespectful at first," he said. "You can keep saying that, but it does not make it true." Rashida sighed and rubbed her temples. "Honestly, this is exhausting," Erica responded. "It's exhausting when you're pretending it's nothing. However, when you are the one, it is important to avoid exhaustion. It is irritating." Sierra leaned forward again, her voice shrill. "You simply don't grasp it." Mendeecees' gaze flickered to her. "What I understand is that you're making this your fight because it gives you an excuse to go after me." The comment hit like a spark in the dry grass. Sierra's chair scraped back. Rashida swiftly stretched out and placed her hand on Sierra's arm. "Don't. It is not worth it." "Nah. He won't sit." Sierra raised her voice as she continued. "Come here and ask why I stand up for someone. I've gone through too much to let anyone get away with that kind of nonsense." Mendeecees did not flinch. "And I've been through enough to recognize when someone is just attempting to elicit a reaction." The standoff lasted a few long seconds until Erica spoke again, her voice softer but sharper. "Do you understand what is sad? You could have simply owned it. Even if you didn't mean it that way, you may have said, 'My apologies.' Instead, you doubled down." He gazed at her, his jaw hardening, but he didn't say anything right away. Kirk moved in his seat, visibly uncomfortable. Spice, who had been watching with a faint smirk, murmured something about how this is going to smash the internet, and sipped her drink until Mendeecees spoke. "I'm not going to apologize for something I didn't do. You can twist it, run with it, and create it into a storyline. That's on you. But I'm not feeding it." The choice of words struck a new chord. Make it a storyline. The implication hung in the air, and no one at the table missed it. Erica let out a lengthy exhale, her expression hardening. "Then, don't be surprised when the storyline casts you as the villain," and she pulled her chair back.